Hey everybody, I picked up a modified version of Deloreango's complete LED upgrade kit. This video captures the trials and tribulations of this swap out along with repairs made during this upgrade. Without further ado, let's get started. This binnacle is going to have to come out for the LED swap, but as you can see, it has warped and separated from the glue over time. So it's also going to be a repair going on with this thing. This contortion was a lot easier to do with the seat in my 20s the last time I removed this binnacle. And that was like 20 years ago. 6 nuts removed. I just removed it far enough to remove the speedometer cable and the 2 electrical cables, and out it comes, no problem at all. I believe it could be repaired. Let's get it apart, we'll have a look. We'll carefully negotiate it out without breaking anything. I am successful. So the epoxy disconnected from both under the plastic and under that leather, so we're going to have to epoxy both sides of it. Also, off to both sides, the same exact thing to a lesser extent. Everything here is going to be covered with masking tape to protect it from any epoxy that may get onto it, so just masking tape everywhere. Sliced a hole in the leather with a razor over here, and as well a hole over here for the epoxy. And I've got a syringe, small plastic cup, and the JB Weld 2-part plastic bonder, which is a 2-part epoxy. I'm going to squeeze that entire tube into the cup and mix it thoroughly. Then I'll pull the contents into the syringe. I have about 15 minutes to get this whole job done. Holding the hole open with a small screwdriver, I insert the syringe and inject half of the epoxy into the hole as far back as possible, and then the other half of the epoxy into the other hole. The syringe is pivoted left and right during this process to get epoxy in a maximum amount of area under the leather. The area is then jostled up and down several times to distribute the epoxy more evenly under that area. Remaining epoxy in the syringe provides for some epoxy on the top side of that leather, just under the plastic. This is distributed with a small wooden stick. And again, the area is re-agitated for distribution on both sides. Now, a piece of plastic is added above to distribute the clamping force. And we start adding our clamps onto the center portion. Immediately we'll proceed to the right side. Epoxy is added just between these areas using a thin screwdriver. This will be agitated and then it'll be clamped. I forgot to add the plastic piece for weight distribution, but I'll come back in a couple of minutes. You'll see me re-add that. Same procedure is done on the other side, and it's clamped, this time with a piece of plastic for distribution. And then I take this one off and add a plastic piece correctly and re-clamp it. And this is done. I'm going to put it off to the side and out of the way. We'll deal with it later. Here's a kit from Deloreango. We've reached a point where we can now open it up, so let's do it. Amongst the LEDs, I got these 4 seals for the side panel, as well as an updated LED flasher. So that's what this is. And then, of course, I got this big bag of LEDs that are individually wrapped within that bag. Very nice. We'll be using all the bulbs from the bag labeled binnacle. And all bulbs in this kit are LEDs except for the one for the alternator, which is incandescent by design. Here's how the bulbs are actually set up by color and function. This is shown directly as it correlates to the dashboard itself. So right now, I'm just going to do 1-for-1 swaps. I'm not concerned about polarity or cleaning the connectors yet. I just want to swap out with the correct bulb, and we'll deal with everything later. This is obviously incandescent out, LED in, and back in the unit. collecting the old ones as I go. Do break-in door next. They're over here red. Now I got turn, headlight, and high beam blue. I wish I had a use for these. I've got my DC power supply set up to about 9 volts, absolute minimum current draw cutoff. So we're going to try it out, make sure everything's working. And just basic curiosity, these little bulbs, 12 milliamps, that's it. It's like nothing. It's important, obviously, this is tested properly to make sure the bulb isn't in backwards. So I got to connect one side to the known ground, the other side to positive. We can see, obviously, this lambda light is connected properly. Either schematic or common sense will show you which side of the board is ground. And I'm testing all of them. Most effectively, they could be tested right where the edge connector meets up to the board, which I'm doing now. With the LEDs done, I come back the next day and remove these clamps from the binnacle. Should be fully dry, more than dry by now. Take off those little plastic pieces, and then remove all the masking tape. I don't expect the masking tape to be removed from the seams over there. That's all going to have to be cleaned up with fine detail work. You can see that first seam is cleaned up and it came out fantastic. Full repair. I'll do the other two. And now all the seams are cleaned up and this thing came out great. Very happy. Time to set these two back together without breaking anything. So I'll just lift it up and over and in. Try not to break that little odometer peg while I do this. With the brackets and screws in place, this binnacle is now completed. We're going to get underway with the taillight assemblies. They're going to need a lot of work. I elected to add these stainless screws. They're not stock. Carefully separating that rubber seal from the paint. I finally get it off. Removing the connector from that phenolic board. Being very careful. Extremely delicate. Again, the board has to be removed just in the right manner. Squeezing the right areas to allow the notches to be released. Lifting the bulbs up and out from the unit. And I'd logged since augmented some of the grounds, but the repairs were done at the wrong temperature for the soldering iron, clearly. This one over here, it's actually a broken piece of board that was repaired, but the phenolic board itself was never repaired, so I'm going to take that out very carefully. Try not to make things worse. And there it is. The really bad soldering was emergency roadside repair, though. None of the soldering's really any good. With that in mind, all the old connections will be removed, and each connection will simply be redone at the correct temperature to ensure good adherence and connectivity. Also, for the other side of the connection on the post, those will be redone. Filed clean, add flux and solder just as before. Connections are tested, they have good adhesion. I'll be putting some grease on there, dielectric grease, and that should be just fine. Same process for this board, except the board itself will be repaired, just so it has better rigidity. Obviously, the bridge is there, but this is no good. We're going to be going for strong and not for pretty, so we use a mixture of super glue with baking soda. And here's the result. It's a good fix, and it will hold well. With that, this board is now completely repaired, and we can move on to the next step in this process. My power supply only goes to 1500 milliamps. I can't test this old bulb. New bulb comes in at 200 milliamps. The brake lights have separate red bulbs. Do a little deoxit detail on each one of them with a Q-tip. As well as the edge connectors. Give all bulbs a final check. Now gently place this board back into position without causing any damage or any more damage to the board. I have to finagle all these plastic pieces so they align to the notches in position so the board is not bent in any way that will cause undue stress. Everything here is seated properly now and it's flat. Clean up these connectors with deoxit. Clean up the surrounding areas behind where the lens is going. I've added some rem oil to this seal right here because it was completely dried out, as well as the phenolic material, letting it soak in. That'll make it less brittle. The seal also puffed up a bit and it's a bit more spongy now. I realize now I should have waited till the license plate lamps were done before putting these back in. But live and learn. This area also needs a lot of work, both cosmetically and with the lights. Got some ancient Delorean hieroglyphics here that may or may not be of any significance. The tab on the right is already cracked. I know it's just going to pop right off. There it goes. Now, no sooner do I take these lamps out that the brackets that support them on top of this rear fender are going to fall in the back of the fender, and I'm going to lose them. You can see them right now, still in frame, but they're going to fall back. Pop these old lights right out. These were 5 watts apiece. These fixtures are really nasty, so I'm going to go and wash these in the sink and scrub them out. Cleaned out using an old toothbrush. Here's the new bulbs in a separate bag. I also have a new flash relay for LED I'm going to be installing now. Here's that relay they provide. Here's me back under the seat, my head on the gas pedal, trying to pull the old relay out because I'm too lazy to remove this simple air vent and get it out of the way to make this job easy, but I will. Original flasher module from 46th week in 1981. I spent 2 minutes removing that small section of vent. Now I have all the room in the world to work. I was able to push that new relay right in with no problem at all. Now this vent could just simply be reinserted, the bracket resecured, much easier. All the contact pins on the fixtures will receive cleaning with deoxit and a Q-tip. Pop in new bulbs. I got a 50-50 chance of getting the bulbs in the right direction, but 100% chance one of the fixtures is in the wrong direction. Well, the bulb polarity was right anyway. Next day we start off with something easy. This is the trunk. Just pulling out this light. Disconnect it. Got another sticker here for the sticker aficionados. Separate bag for luggage compartment light. This will be one of my first directional LEDs. I'll have it shining towards me just for testing right now. And it looks good, so I'm just going to flip it around and point it towards the lens. Reinstall it and have a look. Yeah, it looks really good. This is the first one that just worked easy. Building on the easy momentum, I moved to the door lights. Hopefully these will be easy too. There are 6 of them, 2 reds, 4 oranges. I'm doing this red one right now. Popping this out. And the bag does have red and orange. There is distinction here. So I'm going to pop it in, but just slightly. Just enough to make contact to make sure it's in the right direction before I commit myself. And yeah, this one worked. So I'm going to push it all the way in. Very nice. And put that lens cover back on without breaking nothing. Jump right to the next one, do the same thing, pop it out, check. Very good, put it in, and we're done. So here's before incandescent, and here's after with LED. Now we're on to the glove box, because I'm winning today. Glove box light does work, but I'm going to unscrew it and pull it down from the bottom, where I'm just going to insert the new bulb, and it's very bright, very nice. Screw it right back into the glove box. Looks good, so I'll drop on the end cap, screw it in. Yeah, that's it. That was easy. Moving on to the front courtesy lamp now. Just swapping the bulb and going to apply a little bit of deoxit on the terminals, that's all. Again, much brighter than the incandescent. Pop it back in, move on to the next one. Same procedure as before. This is just the rear courtesy lamp. Swap, clean, and done. And brighter. Here's the lamp in the engine compartment. There was a sort of a fire that melted the cables a couple of years ago. I've removed them. I'm going to re-add them, but for right now, we're just going to swap the bulb and that's it. Wishful thinking said, let's clean up the binnacle area and throw the binnacle back on because it's done. I did clean up and armor all these unreachable areas. I do the seatbelt light side first, then the main harness light, and then I just have enough room to get the speedometer cable in. No oil light, no door open light, no brake light, but the oil light disturbs me the most. I've removed the oil sending unit connection, and this bad boy is crunchy. I think the last 6 inches needs to be re-terminated, but I'm going to connect it to my test ground. And there we go. The oil light does work, so we're in business. I will test it out, make sure everything's working fine. My license plate bezel is weather beaten. It also has holes from European license plate. We're going to fix it. Mix up some plastic epoxy weld. Fill the holes to the best that I can. Try and punch in some sort of texture with sandpaper. I think it's a lot better than it was. cleaned and scrubbed, a layer of plastic primer is applied to it. And while that's drying, I'm going to see if I have any luck with the side markers. So we're going to move on to that project. Pop these out. Clean up behind here. Pull off this old rubber gasket. I do have replacements for these gaskets. As it comes off, we could see that this bulb is red in color. Pull the old bulb out. I'm going to clean the contacts with deoxit, as I usually do. Inserting the new bulb, there's no polarity issues here. I did give it a quick test off camera before getting underway. And here's the old rubber seals cracked on the ends. And the new seals that came with the kit. Rubber seal first, then the fixture. Align everything up, press it against the body, screw it back in. Test is good. Do the same thing on the other side. Gonna move to the front side markers now. And this one didn't actually work. And as I open it up, it comes as no surprise as to the condition of it. This is really bad. This is embarrassingly bad, actually. I was able to remove this portion without damage, but the bulb is just rusted in completely over time. So this is a total loss, this piece. We could cut it off. Ordering 2 new sockets, but I'm still going to check the wires electrically. We run the blinkers, and we see, yep, it's working just fine. Just need the 2 sockets. We'll move on. Onto the front blinkers, we're going to remove them now. This all seems pretty much like standard fare. Nothing of great interest. Pull the bulb out of the fixture. A little bit of surface rust. I'll clean that up. A little deoxit. Here's where things get a little interesting. I put in a new bulb, and I figured that the connection's good. But what I come to find is that it's not really good. You have to be right on the money. In the first fixture, I really didn't know exactly what the problem was. It wasn't really until I get into the second fixture that I find a way to fix the first one. So I accept it as is and move on. From a brightness perspective, however, definitely satisfactory with the new bulb. Second fixture, however, I come to find that many years ago, some mice had moved into the area, been chewing through the wires. Funny I hadn't had any major electrical problems that was a result of this damage. I did stop to put a satin coat on this piece and let it dry. In my quick montage of repairing this connector by soldering new ends onto the broken ends. The entire inside of the fixture had surface rust, which I had removed, and then that will be also coated with dielectric grease. And here's what the ends look like. And then reassembled. Then we're soldering it back into the car. And now we have a new harness. And it works. The problem is the connection on this bulb is just as crappy as the one on the other side, and it needs to be addressed. I decided to move away from fixture repair right quick to go to the center console. Starting with the cigarette lighter light that was never plugged in correctly, probably intentionally, because I didn't want to melt nothing with the light bulb. So I just pulled it out and swapped it. It worked. And then moved on to the headlight and hazards. Swapped those out, and that was done from the front, which I'm told is generally done from the back, but it worked just fine. This is one of those Delorean aftermarket switches that may or may not have already had an LED in it. Made a new license plate bracket out of ABS plastic that was sandwiched together, then carved it out to size using the old bracket as a guide. It's much more durable than the original bracket, and I needed it since I broke it, and then put it back into position. The shifter required some rewiring because I had actually disconnected this from running. Moving on to the rear panels, I put the shifter back in place, forgetting that I'd have to remove the shifter to do the rear panel. But if I hold these with pliers, I'm able to remove these bottom 3 and hold the screwdriver in place to do these without them falling in the back. Everything here looks really good, obviously except for the defrost and the fan fail. That's fine. But in order to get this stuff back on, I have to remove the shifter panel because there's very little room to work to get these 3 back in their socket. It's absolutely terrible. But that's done. Put it back together. And now, yeah, everything lights up, so center console is done. Looking good. Jumped to the back and re-terminated the last 6 inches of this cable to the oil pressure light before I forgot. and went and found the brackets that hold on the license plate illumination lamps. So I'm able to put my license plate lamps back on here. The brackets, given the brackets aren't actually connected to anything, there's no way you're putting these lights back in without removing those side lamps. So the side lamps come back out to put these lights in, and then the lamps go back in. So I'll tell you with hindsight that this was an assumption, that I found that this red wire had broken off. Also explains why everything hadn't shorted out from here with the mice eating through the cables from before. And we could see where it had broken off here, so I thought. So I had replaced this pin with a new pin, recrimped and all. But I didn't realize that the segment was a lot shorter. I had to add wire onto this new lead to be able to connect it to the existing wire, which should have told me that this was actually cut and not crimped, because when I connect it, we see there's a problem here. And that problem has more to do with the rewiring, which I believe to be for Europe, and the light inside this lamp right here. It was modified. Didn't realize this at the time. I'm realizing it now. And this is what a poor attempt at a blinker looks like with this red wire connected. There's definitely no good. At this moment, my package arrived with the new side marker lamps, so I just got underway and installed those. We could see them flashing in unison. That's when I disconnect that red wire. Connect that red wire, and both the side marker and this lamp go to constant on. So I have re-disconnected and sealed off this red wire for now. Headlight and fixtures are all reassembled. Here's what's left of the old side marker lamps. The new ones have a thin coated dielectric grease on the connector and then heat shrink on top of that. Here's the operation of my lights. We can see a little tiny bulb inside the fixture of the outer lamp that's always running. We can see this blinker blinking, the side marker blinking, but neither of those are constant on, only within the headlight fixture itself. Then I get the blinking from the locking and unlocking as I open and close the Elvis remote door locks. I'm going to end this video with the test of the rear lamps that I did. I hope you have found this video enjoyable, entertaining, and informative. Hit that like button down below. Helps me out a lot when you do. And hit that subscribe button for more videos like this when they come out. From here, I still have to do the brakes all around. Still have to do the electric windows have to be fixed. Got all the replacement parts for the air conditioning. And I think after that, we could throw in the reupholstery for the seats, which I didn't want to do till all this was done. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Would you like to reply?